Hey guys, welcome back. If you watched last week's video, then you know I'm in the process of doing a garage makeover. And one of the biggest parts of this makeover is installing new lights. So my old style lights, I had two different styles in the garage, and they were this style in the closets, and then this style for the central space. I had three of them in here directly above the cars. Now, these are original from when the house was built, and while they were adequate just to be able to see walking around the garage, they will not be what I need moving forward for actually working on cars in the garage or doing woodworking projects. I need far more lighting for that. So I've decided to upgrade them all, and I'm gonna go with this style of light to do that. Now this is a 2 foot long LED. So this looks like one of your older style tube light bulbs, but it's just got two LED strips inside of it, and this one puts out 2000 lumens at a bright white color. And then for my larger spaces, I'm going to be using a 4 foot long version of this. So I have 5 of these total. I've installed 2 of them in my largest closet, one where my workbench used to be and a little alcove over there. And then I'm going to have 2 right here, one going in directly above me, and then there's one between my 2 garage doors. I've got 2 2-footers, one in a medium-sized closet, and then one that I'm going to put in today over that space because it's not large enough to take a 4-footer. And then my last light out here is in that small closet you can see off to the side with the light on. And as you can see, that light is low because of ceiling in there, because that closet is under the stairs. And so that one's going to be a completely different style. I'm not going to be covering that, but I'm going to be using a flush style LED for that one. So overall, I'm going to have 8 lights total that are going to be replaced. And I'm going to have way more light out here. Already the closets are far brighter and putting out more light than what I had in the central space. Okay, so the hardest part of installing this light is actually getting it centered on the ceiling properly. Now you do have 3 different options for initial placement of the wires coming into the light. So you have a center one, which is what I'm going to be using, and then you have one on the far left and one on the far right as well. I haven't found any use for those, but I guess if you wanted to massively offset your light to one side, you could use those. You just need enough cable to run all the way to your hookups here in the light, because they are kind of restricted. So unless you're using the center one, you're not going to have enough unless you have a lot of it coming out of the box. So for me, the center one is going to be what I'm going to use. If you want to make it kind of a real quick, easy installation as far as mounting it to the box, you can use the knockouts that they provide. This won't work for mine because to use these knockouts, my light is not going to be placed on the ceiling in the location I want it to be. It's going to end up being turned massively, and I want it to go essentially 90 degrees coming into the entrance of the garage. So I'm going to have to use the side ones here on the left and on the right, which will involve drilling to see if I can hit a stud, then I can just use the screw. And if I don't hit a stud and it's just drywall, then I'll have to install drywall anchors to be able to mount the fixture. So that's where it becomes kind of the hardest part of the whole installation process, which is just getting the light mounted on the ceiling in its proper position. Because the electrical hookup is very simple. Although for mine, this will be a little more complicated, because instead of just having 2 wires coming out, I have 4, because I have the 2 power ones and then I have 2 traveling to another light. So I had to get rid of my quick connects, so I'm going to have to use pigtail for that. Okay, since I think the hardest part of this installation process is centering the light on your ceiling space, and especially in particular for this light for me, because I'm in a very large open area of the ceiling. I don't have any walls nearby or any other things that I can help square it off to. I'm going to explain how I go about centering this particular light. So the first thing I did was I measured the width of the electrical box, and then I found the center line. From there, I measured the light itself here on the back side, because it does slope outward, so it gets a little bigger as you look at it from the front. So I want to know where it's going to sit on the back, how much space it takes up on the back. So that was 4.5 inches wide. From there, I divide that by 2, which is 2 1/4, and I measure 2 1/4 inches both ways out. And that gives me 4.5 total in dimension. And then I just extended my lines outward, and that gives me essentially where I want the light to be lined up. Now, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. And that will be good enough for when I go to put the light up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run my wires through, put the light onto the ceiling. I'm not going to make the electrical connection yet. And then I'm going to place one hole. I'm going to mark one of my holes so I can drill it. And I'm going to attach one of the anchors, put the light back onto the ceiling, still no connections yet, let it hang there because I know from previous ones that this is an extremely light light and it will hang without an issue with just one anchor. So that will give me the ability to make some final placements and kind of still shift it left and right a tiny bit to get it a little more centered before I go ahead and mark my final holes and actually attach it to the ceiling. Once I'm ready to fully attach it, then I will do my electrical connections. Okay, feeding my wires through. And now I just want to get my proper alignment, so I'm going to get one side aligned. And now we check the other side. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm a little bit off here. I'm perfectly on line on the other one, and I do touch right here, so I'm guessing I probably just messed up on my line a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and go with what I've got here on my side, closest to me that I can see best. And I'm going to go ahead and mark my first one. Now I'm not worried about left and right here. So the placement of the light towards the back wall and the center wall, this light fixture, this box is not centered on this ceiling to begin with. So at best, all I'm going to do is just try to center the light on the box itself, which is about right there. And I'm going to go ahead and mark one of my holes. Okay, I'm going to mark here on the left because my light fixture is perfectly between my two lines here on the left, which means that if I have anything off, it's probably on this end anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark one hole right there. And I'm going to take it down. And I'm going to drill a small pilot hole to begin with. If I hit a stud, this hole will be big enough for the screw to go into, and if I don't, I will have to go to a bigger size drill bit to drill for my wall anchor. And no stud. So, need a bigger one. Alright, and now I'm going to have to hammer in an anchor. Alright, that's good enough. Now I'm going to put my light back up and hook it on there. I'm going to tighten it down so that it will hold it to the ceiling. And now I can check my placement a little easier. Okay, so I got down and looked at it from the floor, and from what I can tell, it looks extremely straight on the ceiling, at least to the best of my ability. If it's off a degree or two, that's not really a big deal for me. So long as it's not super noticeable, and I don't notice it at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark my other holes here, and the only thing I'm gonna change for my overall placement is right now, because I have a kind of like a T-slot shaped here, I have the ability to shift the light left or right. And I'm going to shift it that way because it will center it a little bit more overall in this space. Okay, all my holes are marked. So I'm going to loosen this, take it back down, drill all my holes. And then we'll put it back up and make the electrical connections. Okay, now I do need to drill all the holes with my smaller drill bit first, just in case I do hit a stud somewhere in here. A little insulation. No studs. Okay, now that the light is secured to the ceiling, I'm going to go ahead and do the electrical connections. Now I'm going to start with the ground. And one of the weird things that they did out here is for the original lights that they installed, they didn't have any grounds hooked up to them because the lights didn't support them. And the electrician back in the day chose to cut all the grounds off up in the box. So if any of the ground wire is exposed, it's usually only no more than 1 inch, which isn't enough for me to work with. So that was the case here as well. And so what I had to do is for my ground wire, because I still wanted to try to ground it to something, I chose to ground it to the metal box in the ceiling. And the way I did that is I used a screw and I hooked it up. Now I wasn't able to show you that because in order to do that, I had to have the light essentially on the ceiling the whole time and manipulate the ground at the same time. So there wasn't enough room to have the camera in there and see anything. For the hot and neutral wires, the way it's going to work on this one, because I do have 4 wires total, is instead of using the quick hookups, because they can only support 1 a piece for your hot and your neutral, I'm just going to have to tie them all together, and then I will put a wire cap on them, and then to make sure everything stays really secured, I'm going to wrap electrical tape around them as well. So I'm going to show you that process right now. Okay, that's one. I'm going to do the other one, and I'm going to strip the wire back a little bit more like I did on the other side, just so I have a little more wire to play with. Again, I'm going to start with braiding the 2 solid pieces kind of around each other. Alright, so if you're doing your light and you only have the 2 cables like I have here instead of the 4 I had on the other one, you can just use the quick connects that come with it. So you can just unplug it here, and best way to do this is you've got to make sure that the white wire is matching up with the white wire and the black wire to the black one. So when you put it in, if you have the ability to just do it with the other side connected to the light side, then just do it that way. Otherwise, make sure that you don't get it mixed up if you're doing it, you know, unattached and end up putting the black in the one that's going to match up to the white one. So I'm just going to do it here where it's easy, and I'm just going to push them in just like that. Tug on the wire, make sure it's fully seated, and it is, and that's that. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do before I put the light cover on is I'm going to tape the cables out of the way. So I've found that if I leave them there, you can see it when the light is turned on. So the best thing to do is just using some electrical tape, just kind of tape them to the side wall so that they stay out of the way of the light when it's turned on. Okay, the final step is to put the cover on, and this just squeezes in there. I found the easiest way to do this is do one side at a time. Alright, there it is on the left, and I'm just going to work my way down the whole edge. Okay, and now I'm going to do the opposite side. Now once you get it in fully on one end, go ahead and put your little caps on to help it hold it in place. And then just continue working it down until you get it all the way on the other side. And usually you'll have to fight with it at that one corner that's left. Just kind of squeeze it in. And there we go, snapped into place. Okay, at this point, I just need to turn the power back on and make sure everything works. All right, so both lights are now up, the 4-footer and the 2-footer that I want to install. I do have one more that I have to do, and that is the center one right over here between my garage doors. I will have to wait until I get that ceiling painted, which I can now do because I have lights here, and those garage doors have to be down for me to paint the ceiling, so that was very important. So, stick around. Check out the video next week, which will show the final version of this garage makeover. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, click the subscribe button and the bell, and we'll see you next time.